Hello, and thanks for joining me again. I'm glad you liked my first video enough to come to see this second one. This is my second video that I'm actually going to make. I'm going to try to present a bunch of them in the next few weeks. The first topic I want to talk about is Haiti, then Bernanke, and then Obama's plans for cuts that he's going to announce tomorrow in the State of the Union address. It's been the 2 week anniversary of Haiti. There's still a lot of need. I encourage everyone to actually go out and donate, help as much as they can. There's been a lot of concern about the military effort the United States has, that they've over-secured instead of over-helped humanitarianly, and we're starting to see some of the problems and results of that. That is true. I do really believe that. It's one of those things, where if they would have basically half done the security measures and then half done the humanitarian measures instead of just trying to do full force security at first and then try to go for the humanitarian effort. I don't know. I mean, it's a hard thing to actually go across because the goodwill of the Haitian people has actually proved through for 2 weeks already. There's been very, very limited violence, and the violence that actually has occurred has been overrated and been blown out of proportion. They've been great individuals and very, very patient. I mean, if I haven't ate for 2 weeks, I'd be very, very hungry, I guess the good word is. But outside of that, that is really a great need. Just keep giving and everything as much as you can, whenever you can. The need is still there. The cause still goes on, and I actually implore everybody to actually help out. It is sad, yeah. I wish the United States would have took a more effort like Israel did. Israel came in on a Friday night, and by Saturday morning had a complete, fully functional hospital, not just for disaster relief, but a complete, fully functional hospital up. And Israel said, "Hey, we really didn't need any security. These people have been so great with us." But I guess, I mean, it goes back down to it. Yeah, I think people underestimate other individuals. They underestimate the compassion and the patience individuals have, especially after a traumatic experience like that. And I think the United States government overstepped the security role on that. I wish it wouldn't have happened. I wish it would have been more towards humanitarian need. And now you're probably going to see a result of that when humanitarian need wasn't made readily available in the last few weeks. That now you're going to really need a security response, unfortunately. But if it had been handled differently, a lot of people would have been better off. But I guess that's 2020 in hindsight. I'm not going to really comment much more on that. But I'd like to get to Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke. I completely believe that he should not be given a second term. If anything, he should have been fired a long time ago. I'm completely in support with Senator Boxer. Even Senator McCain's against Bernanke, which is amazing. And I'm also in support of my hopefully good friend, Senator Bernard Sanders. My side, I'm a good friend. I know he probably doesn't even know that I exist out there, but hey, he's a great man. Senator Sanders actually made a really good point today on the Obama cuts, but I'll get to those in a bit. But Bernanke really does not need to be in there again. This is a person that's, unlike what Joe Lieberman said, this is an individual that saved our economy. This is an individual that put our economy at the brink. He actually followed plans and ideas under what even Alan Greenspan said. Hey, look, I was wrong. My theory on economy was wrong. I believe that banks wouldn't kill themselves, and he was wrong. And Bernanke followed through with this without seeing the dangers or anything else that was actually going to come of it. So, hey, if you run a job and you're very, very unsuccessful at your job, then probably your bosses are going to fire you. And I think the United States Congress should fire him. But the problem is Obama stepped in and said this would create more problems with Wall Street. And once again, he's helped out Wall Street by saying, look, we don't want to make the Dow Jones go down a couple of points one day just because we're getting rid of Bernanke. So we have to keep Bernanke because we don't want the Dow Jones to go down. So basically, to wrap that whole story up, we're not firing somebody, even though they're completely incompetent. We're keeping them so that one day the stock market won't lose 50 points. And more than likely would rebound next day 250 points anyway, so who cares? So, hey, another 5 years of this guy that's completely incompetent. Anyway, that's my point of view on it. Next point I wanted to actually mention was Obama's cuts. He's actually supposed to mention the State of the Union address, which is going to occur tomorrow night. Obama's actually he has some good keeps. He's saying that he's going to freeze spending on some things and maybe some cuts on some things, but the ones he's not going to touch are some of the. He has some good keeps in there. He's not going to touch the Veterans Administration, not going to touch Medicare. He's going to keep those. They're not going to be a part of the spending freeze or cuts. The bad keeps are defense and homeland security. And as I pointed out earlier, Senator Sanders actually made a good point and where he said, look, lots of times these departments like Defense and Homeland Security, especially Defense, are still building and going out there and contracting with different contractors to basically get equipment to fight a conventional warfare and combining conventional standards. Whereas, when is the last time we actually fought a conventional war? You got to think of it like that. Aside from Iraq in 2003, but I mean, hey, the whole point is there can be cuts in defense and homeland security. It's not impossible. People often say about big government, and they're like, hey, we need to make some cuts through big government because too much. Ineffective spending is the worst thing you can have out of government. Big government is not really the problem. Obviously, I mean, the Veterans Administration, Medicare, these are all great programs. Sure, they're not always great, they're not always perfect, but we can work to make those programs more perfect. There's going to be need cuts even in those departments. And then there's going to be needed expenses in those departments as well. But as far as defense goes, to put it off and just basically say it's not part of the chopping block, it's not going to be affected at all, is basically saying, look, we're just going to write them basically a blank check, and we're not going to see if they're effective in what they're doing, and we're just going to keep going in status quo. And that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that, once again, we're going to spend money towards nation building in Iraq and Afghanistan, and when it comes down to nation building on our side, this is where the cuts come from. And here's some of the bad got rid of. So these are some of the things he's getting rid of that he's going to say, hey, these are open to cut. Education, air traffic control, all things that actually rebuild our nation, nation building projects, things that help this country, things that we would actually spend money to help in Iraq or Afghanistan. We're going to cut those here because we still got to spend as much as we can in defense in a conventional warfare setting against an unconventional threat. All right, that's the problem. That's the biggest thing. And it always goes back to that. It always goes back to we're not nation building the United States. We continue to nation build Iraq. We continue to nation build Afghanistan. And we give up on the idea of actually saying, hey, look, let's put more money towards education. Let's put more money towards air traffic control and make a better air traffic control system than we already have, which is currently horrible. And let's put more money of our GDP back into building highways and infrastructure. Already the GDP of China spends 15%. 15% of their total GDP goes to highway structures. In Europe, it's 10%. In the United States, it's 5%. Let's rebuild the United States before we go out and rebuild all these other countries. Let's give up on Iraq and give up on Afghanistan. Tell the people in Afghanistan, hey, look, you got to get help from your neighbors. Your neighbors, we spend millions and billions of dollars on, in Pakistan and everything else. They need to take care of the situation in their own backyard, not us. We need to let them go. We need to cut our losses off that and basically get Pakistanis, the Uzbeks, the Turkmen, and the Tajiks, and everyone else in that region to come together and say, look, you got a problem in your backyard, y'all got to fix it, not us. So let's start nation building the United States, and let's stop nation building Iraq and Afghanistan. And unfortunately, Obama doesn't agree with this, but hey, a lot of Republicans don't agree with it. A lot of Democrats don't agree with it. But there are a lot of good people out there that do agree with it, like Senator Sanders, that basically says, hey, look, let's give up on these programs. Let's start working in the United States. Let's start rebuilding this country, and let's make it a better one. Thank you.